This is Jets at Noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
It was real fast. There was a lot of transition that happened. They got up on 2 power play goals, and then we came back. But and whether they got injuries or not, they're still a dangerous team. You have to respect your opponent, and they're in this building. They're in a race themselves. Obviously, a lot of these teams that we're facing. So we have to go play our game and not worry about who is in there and who isn't. We just got to go out and be our best.
That's Scott Arniel there on what stood out in the first meeting with Ottawa coming out of the Christmas break. December 28th here at Canada Life Centre. A 4-2 win. The Jets in that one gave up 2 goals to open things up, and then they scored 4 unanswered to win that game 4-2.
Just turned things around and said, watch out, 4 unanswered.
Watch out, Senators.
I have an important question for you. Is game day all one word?
That's a question for dictionary.com.
And is lineup all one word?
Lineup has a dash.
Game day lineup with a dash.
Lineup has a dash between.
Just for the kids listening. I mean, I know this stuff.
Yeah.
I just want to help the kids.
Well, this is important
social
stuff.
Social media spelling.
Yeah.
Is game day all one word?
For
the kids, Cam.
Yeah, for the kids.
No, it is all one word. Yeah, game day.
I think you can. I don't know. Listen, is there a grammar expert? I'm not the guy to talk about grammar. If you've listened to this show, you know that grammar is not my forte.
Okay, never mind.
If there's one thing in the world that shuts my brain off, and I just do not want to listen, is when someone starts talking to me about grammar, starts talking about adjectives and proverbs and items and stuff. I don't see. Listen, there's my brothers are kind of big into this because they're learning different languages, and I just go please stop. I can't listen to this. At school, those were the tests I never studied for, never looked at them. I'm just no, I'm putting it in. I'm just going to mail in this. I think I know what something is, and I'm just going to just accept that I'm going to fail it because I cannot stand talking about grammar.
That being said, I love the word
That's why my grammar is, which is why my grammar is so poor.
Oxymoron is a great word. I was in French immersion for the first 6 years of school.
Oh wow, that must have been bad.
And my grades skyrocketed when I went to just English. But I was in immersion for 6 years, and a seal a seal in French is
I know and I can't say it in English.
Yeah, and I wrote the English version on a grade 3 test, and Mr. Jolie marked it right. And I still have the test. My parents downsized, went into assisted living this summer, and in a box is still this test and I'm like, what is this, Mr. Jolie, 3rd grade? And we were taking history, and we were talking about different cultures and the Inuit. And I wrote, what's one of their main food sources? And I wrote the English version. And he marked it right.
I'll tell you this.
Which made me remember that Mr. Jolie, even in the 3rd grade, was a beauty.
That word still, when you talk about a seal in French, still makes me laugh. That's how childish I am. David texts the show 204-780-6868, says it's all one word. Game day lineup.
Game day lineup.
It's all one word.
It's not. David, come on. Think of the kids, David. They have to learn while they listen here.
Jets at Noon is brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line will win a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method, 204-780-6868.
I'm going to bring that test back when I go home this summer.
I want to see it. I need to see it. So the Jets earlier had recalled in the day, and Jared Anderson-Dolan for the Manitoba Moose. It was just to have an extra forward. Morgan Barron was sort of said, might play tonight, might play in Nashville. Doesn't look like he's going to be in tonight, but you just want to have a little bit of an insurance policy there. But no lineup changes in the line rushes. Line up rushes, line dash up rushes. Yeah, it is. Connor, Scheifele, Velarde, Ehlers, Nemesnikov, Perfetti, Niederreiter, Lowry, Appleton, Gustafsson, Kupari, and Iafallo. And on defense, Morrissey, DeMello, Sandberg, Pionk, Stanley, and Miller are your final pairing. Hellebuck is in net. Now, Scott Arniel, in that lead-in clip there in the return, spoke about some injuries to the Ottawa Senators. Brady Tkachuk is out. He will not play tonight. Josh Norris and Shane Pinto as well are going to be out. How much does
all centers, right?
How much does that change the game?
Well, You've just taken out their top three. Are they all centers? I know Ridley Gregg's a center, is he not? Where's Ross Levitan when we need him?
He's joining in at 12:30. Yeah. He's going to talk to us in just in a little bit.
It's huge. To me, John Norris and Brady Tkachuk are two of probably the top 10 players in that lineup, and especially in the forward core, I would say of forwards, they're top 5 in the forward lineup, top 3. So that's huge. And then I really like Shane Pinto too. So that's tough. This is a game that I know, knock on wood, and we all saw San Jose took them to 25.9 seconds left before they could even tie it. But when you're missing that kind of a lineup, you should be able to take advantage of
Norris is a center, Pinto's a center, Tkachuk is a winger. He's a left winger.
Yeah, a winger. I apologize on that. So your top 2 centers, I think, are out. Well, Giroux's probably the top.
Yeah, I mean,
so your third line center.
But I mean, you're missing quite a bit down the middle.
It's devastating. And we always talk about this, right? Oh, every team has injuries. Well, wait a minute. No disrespect to Morgan Barron, but that's not like missing Mark Scheifele. Or if you want to take a winger, like in the top 6, and because he's not a top 6 player. So I understand every team goes through injuries, but if you could just next man up mentality, then every team would have top 6 players everywhere. They don't.
Yeah.
So
some hurt more than others,
It really hurts the Senators. So you did some great work today. We were talking about this Senator lineup. We'll get into that with Ross, but they're so wildly inconsistent.
Oh,
right?
God. It's if I was a fan of this team, beyond frustrating. And I will lay up since I will ask and I'll give you that little bit of information, but it started on December 11th and it's been a seesaw. There's absolutely no doubt about it. It has been a seesaw.
And I get like Travis Green is new, Nolan Baumgartner, Manitoba Moose favorite, and really good guy is on the staff there as well. And that's their job, right? This has been bad for so long that they brought in this new regime. And I'm fine with the inconsistencies, because I'm not a Senators fan, but I'm fine with it because it takes a new regime time. Like, I think that's their job. They have a pretty good base of a team, injuries aside.
Yeah.
And it's Travis Green and Nolan Baumgartner, the coaching staff's job now to solidify it so that the 5 and 6 game losing streaks become 1-2. And the 5 and 6 games winning streaks become 3 and 4 game winning streaks away from the losing streaks.
The Senators
consistency is what their job is to get into this lineup.
They dropped below the playoff line yesterday based on some of the results in the Eastern Conference. So for the first time in about a month, they're out of a wild card position. I feel like this team should have made the playoffs last year. If you're looking at the trajectory of where they should be, and that's like an impossible thing to necessarily judge or even put on them. But I feel like this team should have made the playoffs last year. So I think if they don't make the playoffs this year, and Ross is going to join us and he's going to tell us why they will, when I was speaking to him last week about this, and he's a believer that they will. We'll talk to him about that.
Well, we all want that Leafs Senators playoff matchup, don't we?
We do. It would be devastating if this team can't make the playoffs. But you're in such a difficult spot where you're not in a position to blow this thing up. Like, what are you going to restart again? No, you got to get through it. You got to work through it.
Well, that's my point.
It's already taken much too long. It's taken way longer than it should have.
That's my point of the new regime with Steve Stais and Dave Poulin in the front office and the coaching staff, the new regime. It's your job to get this team more consistent in the positive way.
Yeah.
It can be good and it can be terrible, and your job is to get that out of them, the terrible parts, and get them more consistent in the playoffs. But they're the Detroit of the North.
Mm-hmm.
They should have made the playoffs by now.
Yeah.
We all remember the couple of drafts ago where they had 7 picks in the first 3 rounds, and they brought in DeBrincat, and then they got rid of him because it was only one and done. But that was the start of, within a year or two, we should be in the playoffs. Jake Sanderson is a phenomenal defenseman. And really, I think he's one of those guys that probably should have been originally on.
I mean, when Giroux signed with them, there was the anticipation that was going to be the final piece that pushed him over, and he's in his final year of his contract.
Well, that's part of his job on ice is to go, guys, this is how you get consistent. These are the habits. And Brady Tkachuk, a phenomenal player. Like, whether you, what do you think?
Well, you know what? It's
but he's been there 8 years and never seen a postgame.
Well, the thing is, like, as a Jets fan, I mean, there was a lot of excitement around those guys out of the Four Nations face-off. I'm glad he's not playing tonight as a Jets fan.
So am I, yeah.
But yeah, we're kind of missing out. I mean, I wanted to kind of see what he was going to go out there and do on the ice. Linus Ullmark's going to be starting a net. He's been good. 9-10 save percentage. He's only 12-10-2.
Yeah, that's not good enough.
I mean, but he's got pretty good numbers, but he's been unable to stay consistently in the net. He's had some injury issues.
He hasn't been healthy and in the net, and then that's what we're going to talk to Ross about. Like that record and some of his numbers aren't good enough in my opinion, but I think that has to do with the team playing in front of him.
Yeah, absolutely. 204-780-6868, 204-780-6868. Here's another little factoid for you, Jim. Ottawa's going to go with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen based on some of those injuries that they're facing right now. So keep an eye out for that tonight when the pregame show gets going at 4. Puck drop at 6 o'clock here on 680 CJOB. Call the Jets at Noon Hockey Hotline. It's open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Let's take a break.
Fred called us the other night, didn't he? Was it Fred?
Fred, yeah. Terry's calling me all the time.
Terry, yeah, calls at night.
Fred called us. Yeah, Fred's called us before. Terry calls us all the time.
One of these nights, Cam's going to go, hello?
Just keep calling.
Hello?
As we mentioned, Ross Levitan, host of the Locked On Senators podcast. And I don't say this lightly. Ross, in my opinion, is the best guy to talk Senators with. I swear to God, on the entire planet. I don't think there's anybody.
Who else do you know that talks Senators?
There's a long list.
Well, then it's a fair comment.
I think he's the best.
Because I agree with you. But I know other people who can talk Senators, and nobody does it better.
That's right.
But I just thought you were saying no one does it better, and I don't know anyone else who does it.
No, I was giving him a compliment.
He's the best. Yeah. Locked On Senators podcast is one of, and I say this sincerely, one of the most successful hockey podcasts out there.
It's just too bad
they do phenomenal work.
And it's just too bad they just talk Senators.
It's too bad it's the Senators.
Yeah, because
nobody cares.
Because there's nobody that's going to be tuning in. I mean, you're barely scraping the bottom of the National Hockey League.
People watch,
and I'm a Jets fan.
People watch CPAC in Ottawa, but they should be listening to Locked On because it's a phenomenal hockey podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Luke Schenn, did you see his comments with the Preds?
Yeah.
We'll play that for you after this.
I mean, it was defenseman quotes last night. Seth Jones, Luke Schenn.
We're going to make sure to touch on that. Don't go anywhere.
D-men are rising up.
Jets at Noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
You don't even really know what to say anymore as far as, the overall team game. Nothing's easy, obviously. I don't think I've ever been a part of a group where you literally can't score goals. I mean, obviously, sometimes you're giving up a lot or defensive game's not there, but at least, you catch the odd break and get the puck in the net, and it's been hard to come by.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those quotes where if you hear him say it, it doesn't sound as bad, but if you just see it in print, I don't think I've been a part of a group that can't score goals. It sounds a lot worse than the way that he actually said it there, but that was after a 4-1 loss to Florida yesterday. That's Luke Schenn with the Preds. And he's right. The Predators cannot score goals. They're second last in the league in goals scored, only to Anaheim. They have 147 so far this year, over 58 games.
And that's a veteran of many, many years, but also many levels of hockey. And he's right. Like, the reason those additions were brought in, many of them, we all know Nashville's a defensive team. They have UC Saros. That's how they've made playoffs and gone forward.
Yeah.
They were specifically brought in to add 1 or 2 more goals a game. And it's done the opposite. I don't think they're scoring as much as they did prior to those players coming in. It's really difficult to understand. And then we go back a couple months when Steven Stamkos was doing press.
Yeah.
And he held back names, but he said, you got to frustrated. And he's like, you got to get to the area and you got to go, and you got to want to get there and you got to want to, he's just basically talking about being in position to score. What? Like, you're not even in position to score when you're, and his frustration because he's never not scored, Steven Stamkos.
No, absolutely not. But it's been a struggle there, and it's a lost season for them. They had much, they were hoping to get back into the playoffs, start building towards something. And it's just been a series of misses, but they're in a situation you gotta get. You're not blowing this thing up again. Just like I said with the Senators, you got to dig yourself out. You got to get out of it.
Is he dealt? Do you think, Luke Schenn?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think Barry Trott's gonna be looking at all options here. If guys are,
I don't think any of the guys he signed Stamkos or
Marcia Show.
Marcia Show or that. But I think there's some, if you can, I think he's going to look at getting something for some guys.
Ross Levitan with us after this.
Ottawa is always a good team, and they know how to compete very well. I know their coach pretty good from my junior days, so it's I know he demands a lot and all that. But I mean, obviously we also know they're a fragile group, couple injuries and stuff. But I mean, it's gonna be a tight match.
That's Nino Niederreiter. Played for Travis Green, head coach of the Ottawa Senators during his days in Portland in the Dub.
I knew that's where Green coached. I had no idea that's where Nino Niederreiter played junior hockey.
Jets at Noon is brought to you by Wash Method
Wow.
Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line is going to win a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method. 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner later on in the program. Ross Levitan, host of the Locked On Senators podcast, with us right now. Hey, Ross, how are you?
Learn something new every day. I had no idea about that stat either.
I had no idea that Nino Niederreiter even played in the Western Hockey League, let alone for Travis Green.
So
Travis Green might have to play forward tonight, by the way.
yeah, I know they're going 11-7. Ross, we're waiting. Is this team going to make the playoffs or what?
Ask me in 2 weeks.
Oh, come on.
No, well, it's ridiculous. Like, we're not getting any sort of injury updates from guys. Shane Pinto was day-to-day and could have played, like they said he might play in the final game before Four Nations, and now he still hasn't played in the 2 games after. Like, I have no idea what's going on. Ullmark was day-to-day. First he was week-to-week, then day-to-day. He was gone for 46 days. Like, it's just, when this team's healthy, yeah, I believe they can make playoffs. I think they have depth at all positions in terms of their top 6. I think their defense is better than it has been in the past. And if Ullmark plays as well as he has this season and in the past, yeah, they're good enough to make the playoffs, but their depth at the AHL level is tested. I looked it up. I covered the Belleville games in Manitoba in December, and there are 6 players who are in that Belleville lineup who are playing tonight for Ottawa.
Wow. Well, let's talk about Jake Sanderson. He's unbelievable.
Oh, he's great, man. Yeah, I mean, what a welcome
goal.
to
Big goal
what a
in the
welcome
final.
to the show. Yeah, it was Canada 3, Ottawa Senators 2 with Brady and Sanderson having the 2 goals.
The Senators really
Team
carried
USA.
that USA team.
Okay,
Yeah, we call them U Sens A is how we call them.
I pulled this from December 11th. Okay, and Ross, you probably know exactly where I'm going here.
Alfie's birthday.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, I learned
There you
something.
Did we not tell the listeners he's the best when it comes
I told
to
you he's the
Senators?
best. This is the Senators since December 11th. Won 6 in a row, lose 6 of 7, win 5 of 6, lose 2 in a row, shut out by the Rangers in Boston back to back, win 5 in a row, and then lose 4 in a row. And this is where we are right now. It's been a ridiculous seesaw for the Sens. When and how do you get consistency here? Is this, I mean, you've been talking about injuries. Is that mostly to do with this, or is there something else at work?
Yeah, I mean, look, injuries aren't an excuse. It's just a fact. And we've been tracking this manually, and I've actually gone back and found it all the way since Shane Pinto signed, because every team builds down the middle. That's why the Jets are so good when you have Lowry slotted as a 3C. When Josh Norris, Shane Pinto, and Tim Stützle all play in the same game, it's been 83 games, so full season. They're 49, 28, and 6. That's a 104-point pace. It's a playoff team. They have not been able to build down the depth, and I honestly blame a lot of that on their last GM, Pierre Dorion. God bless him. This guy was a PR hero. Loved making big swing trades, but he gave up a lot of assets in doing that. And not to mention, they got to give up one of their next two first-round picks because of a botched trade deal with Evgeny Dadonov a couple years ago. So the cupboards have been pretty bare, and because of that, now you're seeing like Matthew Highmore get 20 games at the NHL level. A Zach Ostapchuk, who will be a good player, but he's 21. He's played 45 games this year. Like they don't have the quality depth to withstand injuries to their key players. That said, the goaltending has been inconsistent at times. Ullmark's had some unbelievable games, and he went 8-0-1 before getting hurt right before the first game against the Jets, but he's had some other tough stretches. Their season was actually saved by their AHL goalie. Levi Merilainen came in. Funny enough, he was used with the draft pick that Ottawa got for Dylan DeMello in 2019 from the Jets. He's got a 925 save percentage this year, and it just feels like every time they take a step forward, it peels right back. And if you want one guy that needs to step up, Drake Batherson had 41 points in his first 38 games this year. And since then, it's been nothing. He had a huge goal drought. He finally snapped that. Garbage time goal after an empty netter he scored. It's like, all right, whatever. But they just need their top guys to be better. The one guy who's immune from that, two of them, you mentioned Jake Sanderson, superstar in the making. And Tim Stützle is on a 9-game point streak right now, the longest of his career.
So I wanted to ask you about the goaltending. You touched on it there a little bit. It's been inconsistent. Is that from goal? Is it part and parcel goalies in the team? Is it the team in front of them? Or is it the goaltending needs to be better?
Yeah, I think it's gone through stretches, right? Like Ullmark still has a .910 save percentage, and that's after allowing 5 goals on 15 shots in their last game against the Montreal Canadiens. And it just feels like there's injuries have played a role. He's had 2 different injuries that have kept him out of the lineup at different times this year. Anton Forsberg's been not great. Like he's had a few good games recently, but overall he went through a stretch there where he was either getting a shutout. He had 2 shutouts, and any other game he played was a below .900 save percentage. There was no consistency there. But defensively, they're in the top of the league in expected goals against. Like they're playing a lot better, and that was my qualm with them last year. They gave up so many high danger chances, and it just wasn't like it was the goalie's fault to an extent, but they were just giving up so many grade A's. They've tightened up defensively quite a bit. It's just a matter of now. And I say string it together, as Cam pointed out, they've strung it together for streaks, but it's like finding a month or 2 months where when there's a letdown, you're able to kind of dig your heels in and not get bowled over. And it feels like when they lose 1, they lose 4. And you can't find consistency within a season of that. And they're not young anymore either. Like these guys are in the prime of their career. You could argue that Sanderson and Stützle are still 23 and under, but other than that, like Brady's been in the league 7 years. Like these guys have been around, and it's just time for them to take another step. And they brought in veterans. David Perron, unfortunately, had a family situation, and everything seems like it's on the okay right now, but a premature birth, and there were some complications. So we gave him a big pass, but like that was their big offseason addition outside of Linus Ullmark. And what's he got? He's got 4 points in 25 games this year or something. Like they just need more from certain players, and it'll get them over the hump. The scoring's been down a lot, which is ironic because in the past that was something they never had an issue with.
Yeah, there is a positive here, right? I mean, I remember you mentioned this to me recently about the Senators' schedule. I know they're out of a playoff spot technically today. They were bumped out, but there's a little bit of some favorability when it comes to the schedule over the last little bit here, the last stretch run.
For sure. And funny enough, Cam, like these next 4 games are hilarious. They play the number 1 team in the league tonight, the Winnipeg Jets. Then they play the number 32 team in the league, the San Jose Sharks. Then they play the number 2 team in the Washington Capitals. And then the Chicago Blackhawks, the 31st place team. So they're alternating between the 2 best and the 2 worst teams in the league. And then beyond that, yeah, favorability is one thing, but you'd think that Montreal Canadiens game last Saturday would be one of them, and they lose 5-2. So it's just what you make of it. They've got more home games than road games by quite a bit. I think they have 3 more home than road. They only go out west once to play Chicago. They've played all their other games against the Western Conference, so travel's not going to be an issue. They've got 8 of their last 9 games at home. So that last stretch, they play Columbus 3 times, who they may be battling at that point in the final playoff spot. It's their own destiny that they can fulfill or let themselves down. It's all on them, and that's, I think, exciting and scary at the same time. And you mentioned last night, every team in the East won, except for Boston, and they still screeched out a point in that loss to the Maple Leafs. So they all played now 1 extra game than Ottawa, of course, with the injuries and the best team in the league, the Winnipeg Jets, winners of 10 in a row coming to town. It's not going to be easy, but it's on the players in that room to take it upon themselves and say, hey, everyone else got to win. It's our turn tonight. So that should be the motivator for them. I'm sure they'll come out swinging, but I mean, outgunned, I think, would be an understatement in tonight's game. It's going to have to be a Linus Ullmark win if Ottawa's going to pull it off.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Just a little one.
Just a little one. But we all want the Leafs and the Sens in the first round, do we not?
I hope so. Yeah, I'd take that over. I was just telling my friend Mike DiStefano, I said, if I have to hear, and obviously making the playoffs would be a dream for a guy who's been covering this team almost daily now for 6 years, haven't covered a single playoff game over that span. But if I have to hear the Tkachuk brothers storyline for a full playoff series, if it's Florida, Ottawa, I might go nuts. So yeah, give me the Leafs. Give me the Leafs, and we'll deal with the Tkachuk storyline in the second round after game 7.
Maybe there'll be a group text between the brothers.
Yeah, right.
On a
Brady's
serious,
got to get back.
Brady's
got to get back.
Yeah.
And I loved his quote yesterday, Ross, where he said, like, I know that, and I think the team knows that if 50% of me for the next 24 games is no good, you know, I got to be out until I'm 100%, and I get that. One last one for you, though, the direction. I like, say they get in or they don't get in. The new brass there, the new coaching staff. This is the right direction in your mind?
Yeah, I think so. And we keep calling him Steady Stevie Stamkos because he's very much different than Pierre Dorion. He doesn't go for the big grand slam swings at the plate. He's very methodical, very well thought out. But a lot of fans now are saying there's a fine line between steady and sleepy. And it's almost like, well, are we going to do something here? Like, they're in a bit of a tough crunch because not only are they injured, but it's not like, you know how we always talk about Vegas and Tampa did this too, where you LTIR guys, these guys aren't hurt long enough for LTIR, so their cap doesn't get disintegrated. Therefore, you're now playing shorthanded like we have the last 4 games with 7 defensemen and 11 forwards. It's just not a good way to win. But yeah, the direction for me, it's a long-term. I think on the long term, they're in a good spot. When you have Jake Sanderson's on the first year of an 8-year deal making $8 million with the cap going up, that's going to be one of the best contracts in the league. Tim Stützle's making 8.3. Brady signed for 3 more years at 8.2. Like, they have all their guys kind of right there together. There's no outlier. It's just the middle paid guys have to be better. And that's kind of where we're at right now. And they have shown that they can be better. But the one thing I'll say here, and it's a conversation among Sens fans with Brady Tkachuk, and a lot of frustration, honestly, that he played in that final game, despite definitely not being 100% for that. People are saying, oh, you can, gut it out for your country, but not your team. I would just say it's how Brady Tkachuk makes himself an impact player night in and night out in the NHL. He will go all out every time he's on the ice, and he's only missed, guys, that game against Montreal he missed was the second game he missed with injury since his rookie year in 2018-19. For the way he plays, his ability to stay healthy is unparalleled. So I just wanted to give a backhand to all the Sens fans that are turning on Brady Tkachuk.
But and
he's a leader.
I was thinking that last night. Sorry to cut you off, Ross, but like the Shea Theodores of the world, the Brady Tkachuk, all that, Matthew as well. But that's what you sign up for, right? Like it's easy now, hindsight, go, oh, this cost them this or that or that. But when you go into that, that's agreed upon back in the summer when you're going to do this tournament.
Totally.
That's the risk that you all have to just accept, that no matter whose team it is, just be thankful it's not your team's key guy. But I know it's tough, and I think it sucks that many people got injured in this 4-team tournament. But then I reminded myself last night, it really sucks. I get it, but that's what you signed up for, and that's what you have to accept when these injuries happen at a tournament like this.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit of PTSD for Sens fans too, because I think their best chance at a Stanley Cup was 2006, and Dominic Hasek got hurt at the Olympics and never played for them again.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's tough. But it'll be a fun
John
game
Tavares' Islanders season when he went to the Olympics and was gone for 6 weeks, like that derailed their playoff chances. But if you want to have these tournaments, you just have to accept this can happen.
Thanks a lot, Ross.
It's true. Yeah, totally. Enjoy the game tonight, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Ross the boss.
Host of the Locked On Senators podcast, Ross Levitan on the program there with us. Download the Jets at Noon podcast free now on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you find your favorite podcast with exclusive Jets talk and content only found there. Take Jets at Noon wherever you go and continue the conversation whenever you want. Let's take a break. Let's come back. On the other side, Ross mentioned it. Chicago Blackhawks. They're an upcoming opponent for the Ottawa Senators. And there's a lot of storylines coming out. I want to talk a little bit of Bedard. And I also want to talk a little bit of Seth Jones.
Yeah, we got to talk.
Don't go anywhere.
Jets at Noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Jets looking to win their 11th in a row. Pre-game gets going at 4. Puck drop at 6 here on 680 CJOB. Jets and Senators. Don't miss it. You're part of history now. As long as this winning streak keeps going, you do not want to be missing history. And I want to congratulate David. He won our best text. He won the VIP text from Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road, with the game day lineup being one word. Made me laugh. Made you laugh, Jim.
Yeah, it did.
It's enough to win a car. It's enough to win a car wash at, which is, I mean, listen, this is a free car wash, but it might as well be a check for about $2,000 because that's what it's worth. at Wash Method.
And you can't put a price on romance.
No.
Well, you can, but
we don't get into that kind of stuff. This is a hockey show.
We like the kind of romance that's priceless.
In the first 57 games of the season, upstart for the he's not really an upstart. Chicago Blackhawks sophomore. He's had 36 different line combinations. Connor Bedard. In his sophomore, you know what? But his numbers, that's why he hasn't been this insane player this year. His points per game are not that different, though. He's a much better defensive player. He's minus 44 last year. He's minus 26 this year. He has 0.84 point per game this year. It was 0.89 last year. So there's not that big of a drop. But it's weighing on him, and it's weighing on his teammate Seth Jones. 5 years still left on his $9.5 million contract to the Chicago Blackhawks. He was quoted to the Chicago Sun-Times after the post-game show recently. We're the exact same team right now as we were game one. It's pretty evident out there. We haven't made any strides to be better, more simple, and it shows. You don't get a lot of wins because of that. We had no business being in this game. This has been almost 4 years of bottom of the league play. It's not just this year for me, at least. That's Seth Jones.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jim Toth?
I think he's right. I also think he's a guy that at $9.5 million would like to be anywhere else making 6 to 7.
Which is about what he should be getting paid.
Well, and I like Seth Jones, don't get me wrong, but look, I had this long conversation with my son on the way to his hockey game last night, Hunter, who's 12, and he said Connor Bedard, and I said, look, I've seen it before, right? Nick Patan, guys like this come out of junior, they do things that they're so successful at. It's hard to learn how to defend because they always have the puck, A, but then B, when they do defend poorly, they get the puck back. Like they're just that much level above. So when Paul Bissonnette took him to task on air and put in that game that they were doing on TNT and marked the 3 times he was just turning away from a player going down the middle and stuff, that is unacceptable. And Bissonnette had a right to light Connor Bedard up. That being said, he needs some help.
That's why I brought up that 36 different line combinations. How's he supposed to develop any line chemistry?
They brought in some different players this year that we all thought they would be better. But they need to get him some help. And what I think Seth Jones is saying is whatever you did with this team for the past 4 years has done nothing. It's at the front office. Do something. Go get somebody. And to my point on that is and that's what I told my boys. I'm like, they need some help. Like when Crosby came in, Lemieux was there. And when, you can go down the list and all this.
It's tough to get help because they're 2 years away from being 2 years away. And they might even be 2 years away from being 2 years away from being 2 years away.
The Nick Folignos and the Taylor Halls of the world are not going to make a difference to that team. They need to go get him some help and some players that go, yeah, I'd love to play with Connor Bedard.
Braden Owasco, great job producing the show today. Game time. Broadcast starts at 4. Jets Senators.
Game day.
Sip.